Thank you very much, Abhijit ji, for inviting us and giving us this opportunity to be able to. It's an honor to present Disha. But as they say that videos basically convey a message much more effectively than long-drawn speeches and PowerPoints. So I would first request the organizers to play the Disha video. Thank you. So just to recap what we basically showcased in the video, I think one of the core issues that Disha is planning to address is around the multiple challenges that we see in the public health system in India. Disha is really anchored around these four critical areas, which basically talk about first being the issue on access. 60% of rural India is grossly underserved. The only services provided by a very stretched, inadequate, ill-equipped, overburdened frontline health force and overburdened medical officers. That situation creates some of the most unacceptably high mortality rates in the country. When we talk about mortality rates, 60% of deaths occur due to non-communicable diseases. Diseases that were either not detected or they were detected too late. There are some more stark figures, and I don't want to overwhelm or dispirit all of us, but those are facts. Facts that we need to internalize and confront. Facts like 8 million infants die every year in India. 50,000 pregnant women die every year in India due to lack of timely detection screening, right? 29% of day one newborn deaths in the world happen in India. 57%, and Hemaji is right here, 57%, this is as per National Health Family Survey 2019, 57% of Indian women in the reproductive age group of 15 to 49 suffer from anemia. And this number has gone up by 4% compared to the National Health Family Survey 4 of 2014, right? So these are issues that have to be confronted, and that is one of the core issues on infant and child mortality that Disha in phase 1 and the pilot that was described in the video would like to undertake. The second is around this Anmol Ratan that the video talked about, is this 1 million Ashas. Now we have 1 million Ashas who are the only touch point for 60% of rural India. And the remarkable work and the recognition that they got was very evident in the video. But these Asha workers are ill-equipped, they are overburdened, and they are poorly incentivized. So that's the second pillar that Disha would like to address. The third one is around availability or non-availability of data. While we hear right now in the last 2 or 3 years especially, some enormous strides being taken by the National Digital Health Mission through the National Digital Health Policy that came out in terms of building this huge healthcare health stack, which is going to become basically the tubes and pipes of health data in India. But the fact still remains that there is no credible digital health ecosystem in the country till now, which will meaningfully be able to deliver clinical data at the grassroots level that basically drives effective population health management, disease surveillance, and the effective direction of targeting of your national health programs and your national welfare programs. So that's the third area. The fourth area is obviously Abhijit ji's talked a lot about this, is financing. Lack of ability for us to be able to adequately finance this huge task of public health infrastructure building to drive that level of access. And second, again, is how do we basically then be able to fund and finance the effective utilization of all of these massive funds which have been already earmarked for your major health programs like Anemia Mukt Bharat, TB Mukt Bharat, RMN CH+A. These are all programs that are still not being able to produce the right kind of improvement in health outcomes. So those are the kind of four pillars, and I'll kind of go very quickly to the slide, which basically, can you click once more? Because there's something missing on the top. Fair enough, just leave it there. Next. So I think let's start with, let me very briefly outline about how Disha proposes to address this. First is around Ashas. We propose in pilot phase 1 to be able to digitally upskill and train 250,000 Asha workers out of the million in 9 states and 145 districts of the country. These Asha workers will be digitally upskilled on a very intuitive, validated AI-based screening solution, which comes from Elsevier, but has already been robustly tested in a 6 to 8 month pilot in the aspirational district of Bahrain under the supervision of Niti Aayog and an expert panel that was set up to be able to define a study which ensures tests on usability, usefulness, and adherence to guidelines. And the results obviously were good enough for Niti Aayog to basically suggest, now this is the time for you to now commercially scale this up and go to larger parts of the country. Second part would be the training part of the Ashas, because you can provide a lot of solutions and products, but you have to train these people. So training of Ashas, training on the screening solution, but also on training on the latest generation medical devices from a testing standpoint. What the device helps them do, or before I come to talking about the solution, and I won't talk much very long about this, the second component is incentives. How do you incentivize? How do you recognize? How do you reimburse? And how do you reward Asha workers? And the plan is that we are going to be using the bundle of the existing welfare and health programs and redirecting a portion of the money through direct benefits transfer to Asha accounts. That is how the idea is to be able to incentivize them so that you're able to bring these Asha workers through training, upskilling, and then reimbursement into the mainstream of the healthcare, into the healthcare force, right?
I'm the only person who can interrupt you.
Please.
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
One is the kind of deficit which we see in the requirement of healthcare staff, particularly the trained staff and the doctor. It is not likely to be met for next 5 years also, the kind of training and the kind of production which we are doing. In this pretext, where do you see, and second, the quality of consultation which one person can get from a senior doctor, and what quality of consultation that Asha worker will be able to give to a critically flagged, what is the strength of Disha as a software or the knowledge which comes from it on the palm of the Asha?
Absolutely. So first is, I think the first question was on capacity. The capacity that we have one physician to about 10,000 patients, and that is the mean average. It goes up to one physician to 30,000 patients when you go to rural areas. So even in spite of the new medical schools being built, we have 575 medical schools every year. They're adding about 5 to 6%. It's going to take not 5 years. It's going to take multiples of 5 years for us to be able to get to that acceptable average, which has been cited by, WHO, for example. So I think that there's no recourse, but you'll have to start to look at your frontline health workers and your auxiliary force, and how do you basically get them into an area where what we call as task shifting. The basic screening of patients, which a medical officer does so that the first symptoms and diagnosis takes place. That portion of the task of a medical expert, if that can be flicked on and the ASHA be upskilled on that, we'll leapfrog in terms of our ability to access and be able to capture and detect these cases. The second point that you made was around the solution itself, the quality of consultation. What this particular AI-based solution is able to do is that it is able to digitize your existing Indian standard treatment guidelines, and on top of that, add Indian expert medical knowledge, harmonize that and provide it into the hands of the ASHA workers through a very intuitive web-based application on their phones.
And in their own languages?
In multiple languages. We are, for this pilot, translating into 9 regional languages, so that portion is kind of taken care of. The other part is also very important, is that this particular solution can at the same time diagnose multiple conditions in the same patient. I'll give you an example of a pregnant lady. A pregnant lady, when she's diagnosed for pregnancy and pregnancy related, kind of issues and symptoms, she can have multiple other problems. She can have gestational diabetes, she can have underlying hypertension, she can have chronic kidney disease. Now, there are many novel introductions which are targeted to identify one or maybe 1 + 1, 2. But this particular solution, you can actually digitize multiple disease guidelines into one pathway in one go for one patient, customized for one patient. That allows you basically to detect multiple issues in one go, and then be able to flag that through instant patient reports that are immediately fed into longitudinal care. It starts with medical officer at a district hospital or at a primary health care, and then all the way up. Second is, you've got a report, then what do you do about it? You can, at the same time, this particular solution allows for follow-ups. The same patient, the ASHA can go back to, see what has happened in the intervening time, and from there on pick up what are the new things that have to be flagged and sent up.
So if I'm not wrong, then that particular district where this screening is happening through Disha is going to give us a very dynamic and detailed profiling of NCDs, also the deficiencies and efficiencies of what kind of healthcare would be required in that, maybe how many are anemic, how many are diabetic, how many are prone to tuberculosis. These kind of heat map can come from that particular district?
It can come from the block, it can come from the district, and ultimately you can aggregate it to what is happening in the state level. That is the quality
along with
of
the
data.
degree of severity, right?
Including the degree of severity, which the testing will be able to show you. Because there are many opportunities for testing agencies to be able to, for example, anemia. There's not only one type of anemia, there are many types of anemias. This can basically open up the market to screening and monitoring of various types of anemias. Apart from iron deficiency, there's sickle cell, and there are other kind of hemoglobin disorders. All of that can be very easily captured. And that is the richness and the quality of data that is now going to sit in the repository of the state.